5 years ago, I threw myself at Caleb Collins and had his baby. 5 years later, I came back to the States with our daughter, only to find out he'd lost his memory and was heirless. Desperate, Caleb's mother put out a public notice. Due to the fact that my son was taken advantage of and lost his memory 5 years ago, he has since shown no interest in women, leaving him without an heir. We are now seeking a wife for him. Anyone who successfully marries our son will receive a $10 million reward. If she bears him a child, that child will directly inherit the entire Collins family fortune. I had to laugh when I saw that. I answered the call that very night and headed straight for the Collins estate. The kid's right here. I hadn't even been back in the country for 2 weeks when I saw the notice from the billionaire Collins family online. Anyone who successfully marries our son will receive a $10 million reward. If she bears him a child, that child will directly inherit the entire Collins family fortune. The billionaire Collins family. Suddenly, my mind flashed back to that night 5 years ago. In the dim hotel room, the man gasped in my arms, his breath hot against my face, sending a shiver through me. "Mommy?" My daughter's voice snapped me out of it. I grabbed her hand, and we rushed out the door, heading straight for the Collins estate. When we got there, the scene was even crazier than I'd imagined. The yard was filled with beautiful women of all types, including some C-list actresses and a few popular influencers. It felt like a scene out of The Bachelor. They were all clustered in small groups, chatting and trying to get intel on each other. I overheard a few snippets as I walked by. This is a huge turnout. The Collins family must be getting really desperate. You're telling me? There are even rumors that Mr. Collins is gay. Poor guy. He was taken advantage of 5 years ago, lost his memory, and now he's basically allergic to women. He won't get married, won't have kids, and he's an only son. Of course his family's freaking out. Just then, the main door opened, and a heavy-set woman in a Collins family staff uniform came out. "What's all this noise? You think this is a farmer's market? Mr. and Mrs. Collins are inside. If you can't keep it down, you can all leave." Everyone else went quiet, but my eyes were fixed on that woman. She's just a housekeeper. Who does she think she is, acting like she owns the place? "What did you say?" The woman shot me a vicious glare, then her eyes landed on the child holding my hand, and she burst out laughing. "We don't just let anyone into the Collins home. What do you think you're doing, bringing a kid here? You'd better leave now if you know what's good for you. Don't make me call security." I walked straight toward her. My demeanor seemed to startle her, and she instinctively took a couple of steps back. "Brenda. Long time no see." Her eyes widened. "You know me?" I ignored her, pushed right past her, and strode into the villa with my daughter, leaving Brenda's wail of pain behind me as she stumbled to the ground. The Collins villa was exquisitely decorated. In the living room sat only the chairman, Mr. Collins, and his wife. They both looked a little confused to see me. I took off my daughter's hat, revealing a face that was an 80% match for their son, Caleb. "Beanie, say hi to Grandma and Grandpa." "Hi, Grandma." "Hi, Grandpa." Mrs. Collins nearly fainted. When she recovered, she immediately called Beanie over to get a closer look. "Honey, she really does look like our son. She's the spitting image of Caleb when he was little." Mr. Collins didn't respond, just studied me with a critical eye. "Are you Caleb's ex-girlfriend?" "No, we were just college classmates." There was no epic love story, no sweet campus romance. Our university was huge. In 4 years, I'd only seen Caleb a handful of times. Mrs. Collins was surprised and looked down at Beanie again. Then this child. I pulled out my phone, showed her the marriage announcement she'd posted, and smiled. "I'm the woman who took advantage of your son and gave him amnesia. It was 5 years ago, right before college graduation. I made the boldest decision of my life. I drugged Caleb Collins, slept with him, and then disappeared overseas to have his baby. This child was very important to me." Sensing the heavy atmosphere, I pulled Beanie behind me and cracked a joke. Didn't you just say you needed someone to have a child? Well, I already did. A few years ahead of schedule, even. I mean, we have meal kits now, right? What's a ready-made kid? Before the Collinses could say anything, Brenda, the housekeeper who'd been so high and mighty at the door, rushed in. Sir, ma'am, this woman has clearly been scheming to get the Collins family fortune for years. You have to throw her out. I shot her a cold look, and the arrogant woman immediately clammed up. The Collinses seemed unsure what to do. Mrs. Collins asked for a few strands of Beanie's hair for a paternity test. Whether or not you get married is still up to our son. But if this child is ours, we will take responsibility. It's just. Mr. Collins looked me up and down, his eyes filled with displeasure. The meaning was clear: if Beanie was their grandchild, they would accept her. But her mother was another story. My son may not agree to marry you. You should go home for now. Wait. I was about to turn and leave when a voice came from behind me. I looked back, but no one had spoken. Everyone was looking up. Following their gaze, I saw a man standing at the top of the second-floor staircase. Mrs. Collins's face paled. Caleb? You didn't go to the office today? We thought you weren't home. And this child? Caleb raised a hand, cutting his mother off. He descended the stairs one step at a time, walking slowly toward me. Seeing him again after 5 years, his gaze was just as cold and unfamiliar as it was back then. Even my fearless daughter hid behind me in fear. Caleb's eyes shifted down to my daughter clinging to my leg, then quickly looked away, back at me. What's your name? So, he really had lost his memory. Clara. He turned, sat down on the sofa, and said something that made everyone's jaw drop. You wanted me to get married, right? She'll do. His casual words hit the room like a thunderclap, and everyone's expression changed. The housekeeper was the first to cry out, Young master, this is no joke. She deliberately had your child and then ran off overseas just so she could come back today and force you to take responsibility. No. I turned to her and corrected her coldly, I flew first class. That's hardly running off. Mrs. Collins sat beside Caleb, pressing him. Caleb, did you remember something? Is there some story between you two? No. You all keep nagging me to find a woman and have a kid, and it's seriously getting in the way of my work. He pointed a finger at me. Woman. Then he pointed at Beanie. Child. Caleb's logic was brutally clear. Getting married meant sleeping with a woman, and even then, there was no guarantee of a child. If he married me, he'd have a kid instantly, and he wouldn't even have to touch me. Such a dedicated workaholic. Caleb's parents were stunned into silence by his reasoning. But since Caleb himself had accepted it, there wasn't much they could do. The DNA test results came back the next day, confirming that they were indeed father and daughter. Caleb's parents stared at the report, reading it over and over before turning to pinch Beanie's smiling cheeks. Sweetheart, say hi to Grandpa and Grandma again. Hi, Grandpa. Hi, Grandma. Oh, what a good girl. It seemed they were ready to accept Beanie, their sudden granddaughter. A weight lifted from my chest, and I couldn't help but smile too. But there was a pair of eyes glued to me, impossible to ignore. I turned and met Caleb's gaze. He wasn't looking at the test results or at his daughter. He was just staring at me, making my skin crawl. You really don't remember anything? Correct. That couldn't be right. I had drugged him, but it was just a standard aphrodisiac. And I paid a heavy price for it. I was so exhausted by the end of the night that I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, my eyes practically glazed over. But no one ever said the drug could cause amnesia by affecting the nervous system. Clara, since Caleb has agreed to the marriage, you two should go get the license as soon as possible. Mrs. Collins was much more agreeable than I expected, bringing up the marriage herself. This was perfect. I needed to get married quickly and secure my position as Mrs. Collins. But first things first, I needed to get on good terms with my future husband. I turned to Caleb and politely extended my hand. Well then, I look forward to our future together. Caleb was silent for 3 seconds. He didn't shake my hand. Instead, he slipped a card into it. What's there to look forward to? I'm very busy with work, so don't bother me unless it's important. This is a black card with no limit. Buy whatever you like. Marrying me gets you a husband who's never home but will give you money to spend. Are you sure you want this? Of course I was sure. I'd been planning this for years. Every day I was overseas, I was plotting my next move. That night, I moved into the Collins estate. The housekeeper, Brenda, looked at me like she wanted to eat me alive. As I was passing by, she suddenly called out to me. The elevator in the villa is broken today. You'll have to take the stairs. What a coincidence. It broke the day I arrived. In that case, I simply pushed my luggage toward her. Ma'am, I can't carry this. Could you please take my bags to my room? She was clearly stunned and took a few steps back. My only job in this house is to cook. Why didn't you ask the movers to help you just now? I didn't say a word. I deliberately waited until the movers got in their truck and drove away before pointing outside. They're gone. Brenda gritted her teeth and snatched the suitcase from my hand, muttering under her breath. So young and already ordering an old woman like me around. My daughter is your age, and she helps me with everything. She's so much better than you. She's the one who should have. I didn't catch the rest of what she said. An image flashed through my mind, and the smile on my face faded slightly. Is that so? What a shame your daughter doesn't have what it takes to marry into the Collins family. Brenda whipped her head around to glare at me, then shoved my suitcase away without a second thought. We were on the stairs. The suitcase she let go of came tumbling toward me. She stared at me, muttering something like bitch under her breath. In a split second, I caught the luggage, gave it a hard push, and sent it crashing onto her foot. Ow! She cried out in pain. As she bent down, I jabbed her in the lower back with my elbow. The suitcase tumbled down the stairs to the first floor, while Brenda collapsed on the steps, groaning, one hand on her foot, the other on her back. What's all the racket? The noise quickly drew others, but I didn't expect Caleb to be the one to show up. Brenda's eyes lit up when she saw someone coming, but she quickly composed herself when she realized who it was. Young master, she insisted I carry her suitcase. I'm an old woman. Caleb's gaze was so cold it was terrifying. Brenda, who had been ready to stir up trouble, was so intimidated she choked on her words. His eyes quickly shifted to me. I looked up at him and smiled faintly. Which room am I in? The butler rushed over, standing behind Caleb and beaming at me obsequiously. Madam, you'll be staying in the young master's room, of course. That was an answer I hadn't expected. Even Brenda sucked in a sharp breath. I instinctively glanced at Caleb, waiting for him to object. The air grew tense. After what felt like an eternity, he turned and walked away, leaving only one sentence behind. Help her with the suitcase. And if you're too old for the job, you can retire and go home. Caleb's room was on the second floor. Brenda, already injured, overweight, and getting on in years, was panting by the time she lugged the suitcase up. The moment she set it down, she practically fled, terrified I might call her back. As she left, she pulled out her phone and started texting. Linda, you won't believe it. Kids these days are out of control. Once she was gone, the hallway felt empty, with just me standing outside Caleb's room. Sometimes I really think time is a loop. This felt exactly like 5 years ago, standing outside his room. Except that time, Caleb was already out of it, completely at my mercy. The door opened from the inside. The man stood there, frowning at me. What are you doing, just standing there? Get in. He turned and walked back into the room, leaving me to think. I was going to need Caleb's help a lot in the future. Maybe a strategic retreat showing some weakness first was the way to go. I took a deep breath, walked into the room, and spoke softly to the man reading a proposal on the sofa. If you're not comfortable with this, I can sleep somewhere else. I promise not to bother you. After all, sleeping next to him didn't matter. I just needed him to play the part of a loving husband in public. Caleb's room was decorated in only black, white, and gray. It lacked any of the warmth of a bedroom and felt as cold as its owner. So now, as he sat on the sofa with his long legs crossed, looking at me, I felt an immense pressure even though he hadn't said a word. I lowered my eyes, my lashes trembling slightly, and let the tears flow on command. Or you could just tell me what time you usually get home, and I'll make sure to stay in my room during that time. I promise I won't be an eyesore. How about that? Still no? Then maybe I shouldn't stay in the main house at all? He seemed to look even more annoyed. I couldn't read Caleb's mood at all. I was about to say something else when he put down the file he was holding. Quiet. Go wash up. I'm going to bed. Was that a yes? What a cold person. So hard to talk to. I rushed into the bathroom to brush my teeth and wash my face, sneaking a peek outside. Caleb was crouched by the nightstand, seemingly lost in thought as he stared at something inside. I wondered what secrets it held. By the time I finished washing up as quickly as possible and came out, Caleb was already in bed, leaving half of it for me. The main light was off, with only a small lamp on the nightstand casting a soft glow. The warm, yellow light finally added a touch of color to the monotonous, oppressive room. Caleb's eyes were closed, his head sinking slightly into the pillow. The sharp, intimidating man from the daytime seemed to soften in this moment. God had certainly been good to him. It wasn't enough to give him a privileged background, he had to have a near-perfect face too. It was enough to make anyone jealous. I carefully crept to the edge of the bed, lifted the covers, and lay down. After the lamp was turned off, the room was pitch black, so quiet you could only hear the sound of breathing. I stared at the ceiling, counting sheep. I had just reached 52 when the man I thought was asleep suddenly spoke. Clara. Here. Am I covered in thorns? Before I could react, a hand shot out from under the covers and forcefully pulled me over. I let out a gasp as I was yanked into a warm embrace. The owner of that embrace clicked his tongue in annoyance. Be quiet and go to sleep. I have an early meeting tomorrow. If you don't want to have to think twice about buying a handbag in the future, then stay quiet. I have to be well rested to make money. Seriously, who was bothering who here? Did he have any idea how hard it was for me to get to sleep? I couldn't break free from Caleb's embrace, and I was afraid of waking him, so I had to fall asleep in this awkward position. Just before I drifted off, a strange thought popped into my head. So even the coldest of men has a warm chest. If I ever get the chance, I have to see if that spot is still as scorching hot as it was 5 years ago. I didn't sleep well that night. To be honest, I've gotten used to it over the years. The moment I close my eyes, certain memories from the past flood my mind like a nightmare. These days, it's hard for me to sleep through the night without medication. When I woke up the next morning, I made a point of letting Caleb use the bathroom first. But he didn't accept my gesture. In fact, he asked me a question back. Do you think the bathroom is too small? How could it be? Who has a bathroom that's over 300 square feet with 2 sinks? As I was washing my face, I instinctively rolled up my sleeves, and the gruesome scars on my arm made the man brushing his teeth pause. I caught his hesitation, immediately pulled my sleeves down, and offered a faint smile. Did I scare you? Sorry, I usually try to wear long sleeves. It won't happen again. Caleb looked away and continued brushing his teeth. I thought that was the end of it, but after he spat out the toothpaste, washed his face, and walked out of the bathroom, he suddenly spoke. That's not what I was thinking. Don't assume things about me. He seemed to be in a bad mood. I couldn't tell if it was because he just woke up or because of what I'd said. The butler came to inform us that breakfast was ready. Caleb and I went downstairs, one after the other. At the dining table, his parents were gathered around Beanie, chatting with her. As I passed the kitchen, I heard Brenda on the phone. Really? Then you should come over right away. While Sir and Ma'am are here, we can expose that woman for who she really is. She ended the call, turned around, and met my gaze. She jumped, startled, but then shot me a dirty look. The Collins family was quite busy in the mornings. Caleb and his father had to go to the office. Mrs. Collins had a few charity projects to manage. As she was leaving, she tentatively asked me, "Clara, is there anything you'd like to do? We're not an old-fashioned family. We don't expect our women to stay home and be housewives." I quickly explained, I already interviewed for a new job before I came back. It's just that I've only just returned and still need to handle Beanie's school enrollment. I'm scheduled to start at the company next month. Most importantly, I needed this time to prepare some surprises for a few people. Hearing this, Mrs. Collins nodded in satisfaction and left. Soon, it was just Beanie and me at the dining table. Brenda was busy in the kitchen, occasionally taking calls and whispering secretively, glancing in my direction from time to time. The family wouldn't gather again until the evening for dinner. Compared to the rushed breakfast, dinner was much more relaxed. Mr. Collins started by asking Caleb about work, got a few brief replies, then turned his attention to teasing Beanie. Beanie was a charmer, and her sweet grandpa and grandma had the couple beaming. The atmosphere was lively, but just then, the doorbell rang. Brenda eagerly went to answer it. After a brief conversation in the entryway, she returned with a guest. "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Collins, young master." The visitor was a pretty young woman holding a file folder. She greeted everyone with a sycophantic smile. "Oh, it's Linda. Let me introduce you. This is the young Madam, Clara, and the young Miss, Beanie. Clara, this is Brenda's daughter, Linda. We've practically watched her grow up." Mrs. Collins introduced us, but I ignored Linda. Instead, I turned to Caleb with a slightly hurt expression. "So, are you two childhood sweethearts?" Caleb took a sip of soup and said flatly, "No. She's just someone whose education my parents sponsored." His words made the smile on Linda's face freeze. But she quickly recovered and presented the file she was holding. "Mr. and Mrs. Collins, are you really going to accept this woman as your daughter-in-law? She has ulterior motives. I've already investigated. She didn't have a one-night stand with the young master and get pregnant by accident. She had IVF done overseas." Linda's file was incredibly detailed, even down to which hospital I used, which doctor I saw, and how many cycles of hormone treatments I underwent. With the stack of documents laid out before us, she looked at me with an air of triumph. It wasn't a simple one-night stand. And it's not like she discovered she was pregnant after going abroad and decided to keep the baby. This woman approached the young master from the very beginning with the sole purpose of having his child. "Sir, ma'am, can you really allow such a conniving woman to be by his side?" Mrs. Collins took the file from her and began looking through it with her husband. Brenda chimed in from the side, "I knew it. A decent girl would get an abortion the moment she found out she was pregnant. Who would choose to have the baby unless she had ulterior motives from the start? This woman is malicious. You can't keep her here. Is that so?" I glanced up at her. Brenda instinctively looked to Mrs. Collins. Seeing her mistress's displeasure, she seemed to gain confidence and puffed out her chest. "Of course. If I got pregnant by accident, my first thought would be to get rid of it. Who would choose to keep it? Well, that depends on who the father is, doesn't it? My daughter is smart and adorable." I looked at Linda and let out a chuckle. "If it were your daughter, I'd probably choose to get rid of it too." "You. That's enough." Mrs. Collins cut Brenda off just as she was about to explode. She then had someone take Beanie to eat elsewhere. Now, it was just the adults. Seeing how protective Mrs. Collins was of Beanie, Linda did something shocking. She dropped to her knees in front of her. Ma'am, it's just a child. Anyone can have one. I can have a child for the young master, too. The fox was finally showing its tail. Mrs. Collins was taken aback and quickly told her to get up. This isn't the time to talk about this. Linda continued to kneel, sobbing quietly. Sir, ma'am, you and your mother have taken care of me for so many years. I have no way to repay you, but I am willing to risk my life to bear a child for the Collins family so you won't be threatened by this woman. I nearly burst out laughing. I turned to study Caleb. So many women wanted to have his baby. They were treating him like he was breeding stock. Is the report true? Caleb suddenly asked me. Everyone was waiting for my answer. I sighed softly and then said with a playful pout, Don't you know your own abilities? Actually, it had nothing to do with Caleb. It wouldn't have mattered how potent he was, it was my safe period. The chances of getting pregnant were low, and I couldn't afford to gamble. So, when I left, I took his sample with me. Just as Linda said, I had the baby via IVF. Sir, ma'am, this woman truly has ulterior motives. Of course I have my own motives. I didn't want to just have a baby with any random guy. I cut Linda off, placing my hand on Caleb's shoulder and lightly brushing his earlobe with my fingers. He frowned, his cold gaze sweeping over my face, but he didn't pull away. In fact, a faint blush spread from where my hand had touched his ear. I wanted to have a child, but the father had to be up to par. Body, looks, they all had to be top-notch. I saw Caleb changing once in the gym when I was cleaning. Great body, tall, 8-pack abs. He fit my genetic requirements for a father perfectly. Linda was so shocked by my words that she started taking deep breaths. Brenda was pointing at me, calling me shameless. Sir, ma'am, how can you keep a woman like this around? The elder Collinses were equally stunned by my audacious words. It took Brenda's voice to snap them back to reality. Whatever the case, let's respect the person involved. Caleb, what do you think? I smiled, leaning in closer until half my body was resting against Caleb. What do you think, honey? I drew out the last word, successfully infuriating Linda. Her eyes turned red, and she looked like she was about to lunge at us before Brenda pulled her back. What are you afraid of? Just wait. Do you really think the young master will let someone like her stay by his side? Caleb's ear felt hot to the touch. I started to pull my hand back, but he shot me a glare. Annoying. He muttered it so softly that only I could hear. He was clearly talking about me. Then he spoke again, this time loud enough for everyone to hear. You wanted a child, right? Now we have one. I don't care how she came to be, but I'm not accepting a child from anyone else. Besides. Caleb stood up and pulled something out of his pocket. When everyone saw what it was, they gasped. I'm already married. It's too late to back out. The sudden appearance of the marriage license nearly made Linda faint. Mrs. Collins quickly took it and examined it carefully with her husband. Oh my goodness, honey, I never thought I'd live to see our son's marriage license. I really thought he was going to be a bachelor for life. Shoo, we have guests. Linda stumbled back, her eyes filling with tears of disbelief. No. Impossible. Why is it impossible? Look, it's the real deal. I made sure to show her the details. The marriage license was stamped with an official seal and had both my and Caleb's information on it. The date was this morning. I had been trying to figure out how to trick Caleb into getting the license when I suddenly got a call from him. Get your ID. The driver will be there in 10 minutes to pick you up. For what? To get the marriage license. I happened to have some free time this morning. I never expected it to be so easy. Half an hour later, I was standing outside City Hall, looking at Caleb in his sharp suit. He was looking me over with a frown. You came dressed like that? I glanced around. A few other couples were taking pictures. The women were all in white dresses with veils, their faces beaming with happiness. Then I looked at myself. plaid shirt, jeans. I looked like a total slob. Hey, it's my first time getting married, I'm new at this. I'll do better next time. The man next to Caleb, who I assumed was his assistant, clenched his jaw, trying not to laugh. He finally managed to hold it in after Caleb shot him a look. There's a mall next door. Go buy something to wear. I don't want you using the photo on the marriage license is ugly as an excuse to drag me back here for a retake. In the end, I did as he said, bought a new outfit, and went back to City Hall. During the vows, I felt a little dazed. Was I really married? This was something I had planned for so long. Becoming Caleb's wife would make certain things easier, but I hadn't even started my plan yet. How did he get on the hook so easily? Are you sure you want to marry me? Caleb didn't answer until the clerk stamped the license and handed the fresh red booklets to us. Then he finally seemed to come back to reality. What, you slept with me and didn't plan on taking responsibility? I really didn't see that question coming. But now that I had the marriage license, I felt much more secure. For instance, I could now openly kick Linda out of the house and even slap her hard across the face on her way out. Ah, how dare you hit me! Before the words were even out of her mouth, I slapped her other cheek. What do you think you're doing? Brenda saw what was happening and rushed over, her eyes darting inside the house. But Mr. and Mrs. Collins had already finished dinner and gone upstairs. Caleb, however, saw the whole thing. He acted as if nothing had happened, glanced over, and then turned to leave. Young master. Linda watched his retreating back, tears streaming down her face. When she looked at me again, her eyes were filled with murderous intent. You bitch. You stole my place, and you dare to hit me. I won't let you get away with this. I smiled faintly and walked toward her. Good, because I don't plan on letting you get away with it either. I'm going to watch your every move, and I'm going to expose every rotten thing you've ever done so everyone can see the filth hiding under that pretty face. Linda backed away, the murder in her eyes slowly replaced by fear. Her voice trembled. What do you mean? Who are you? Why are you trying to ruin me? How interesting. She could ruin people without a second thought, but when someone tried to ruin her, she needed a reason. Luckily, I had plenty of reasons. Linda, you'd better live a long life. I patted her on the shoulder, my smile fading. Live long enough to suffer everything I ever went through. That night, I had the dream again. In a narrow bathroom stall, someone was tearing at my clothes. My head was pressed against the cold floor, next to a puddle of stinking piss. The stall was surrounded by people. Some were cheering, others were taking pictures. Lick it. If you lick it, we'll let you go. Get a close-up of her. Pull her clothes off. Bitch, with a face like that, who are you trying to seduce? Someone slapped me, and a loud ringing filled my ears. On the way home that day, I took a deep breath and could feel the wind blowing against my eardrum. After that, my hearing was never the same. My grades, once my pride and joy, plummeted. That's when my mom finally noticed something was wrong and took me to a doctor. Communicating was difficult. I couldn't hear well, and my mom couldn't speak. I apologized to the doctor and asked her to write her questions down. The doctor frowned, studying me for a moment before sighing and writing on the paper. Your eardrum is this badly perforated. Why did you wait so long to see a doctor? Waking up from the nightmare again, I shot up in bed, my back drenched in cold sweat. There was a rustle beside me. A hand reached out from under the covers and turned on the small lamp on the nightstand. Why are you up in the middle of the night? Caleb rubbed his temples, his voice hoarse and his eyes heavy with sleep. Did I wake you? I never knew I talked in my sleep. Not until I had Beanie. One night, as I was sleeping next to her, she suddenly asked me. Mommy, were you being bullied? Why do you ask? You were crying in your sleep. That's why Beanie started sleeping in her own room from a very young age. I steeled myself and made her sleep separately so my nightmares wouldn't wake her. I'm a really restless sleeper. Maybe we should sleep in separate rooms from now on? There's no need. Caleb cut me off without a second thought. I studied his expression, but he deliberately avoided my gaze. If we sleep in separate rooms, they'll ask why. I don't feel like explaining. It's okay, I can tell them. What if Beanie asks why mommy and daddy are sleeping separately? Caleb's question left me speechless. For years, I had deliberately avoided talking about her father. Beanie was a good kid and rarely asked for a dad. But since we'd been at the Collins estate, even though no one had said anything, I could see the hope in her eyes when she looked at Caleb. Caleb didn't seem to mind the child. In fact, tonight, during story time, he was the one who took the book and sat by her bed. The scene was almost comical. Caleb was reading The Conch Princess. When he got to the part where the hero takes the princess's conch shell, he frowned. This is illegal seizure of personal property. It's wrong. Beanie nodded, not really understanding. Caleb quickly switched to Snow White. When he got to the part where the prince kisses the princess, he put the book down again. Kissing a woman without her consent, while she's unconscious, is also a crime. In the end, what was supposed to be story time turned into a lesson on law, and Beanie fell asleep to the sound of Caleb reciting legal statutes. If Beanie found out we were sleeping in separate beds, she would probably be upset. With that thought, I lay back down. After the light was turned off, I stared at the ceiling and started counting sheep again. I had just reached 100 when Caleb suddenly spoke. As a mother, shouldn't you be setting a good example for your daughter? Like asking for help when you need it? My silence was his only answer. Caleb probably thought I had fallen asleep, and the conversation ended there. The next morning, as I was eating at the dining table, I noticed a dark gaze fixed on me. I looked up and met Brenda's eyes. She guiltily looked away, her fists clenched tightly. From my observations over the past few days, I could tell that Brenda saw herself as half-owner of this house. She had worked for the Collins family for years, and they had sponsored her daughter Linda's education. Linda even worked at the Collins' company after graduation. In Brenda's mind, if Linda could just marry Caleb, she would become the true mistress of the house. But then I showed up. For the past few days, Brenda's glares had been relentless. I have to go to the office for my first day, so I'll be leaving now. As I got up to leave, Mrs. Collins stopped me to ask about the wedding. Since you and Caleb are married, we should have the wedding sooner rather than later. I thought the whole IVF thing would make Caleb's parents prejudiced against me. But surprisingly, they hadn't said a word. Although last night, I did see them talking to Caleb in the study. I could faintly hear my name being mentioned. I'm fine with whatever for the wedding. I don't have any guests to invite besides a few colleagues and bosses. The Collins family, on the other hand, had a long guest list. Mrs. Collins said she had nothing else to do and would take care of the wedding plans. I had no objections, of course. She then turned to Caleb. What do you think? Caleb wiped his mouth, his tone completely flat. Whatever you decide is fine. Humph, acting all nonchalant when you clearly care. Mrs. Collins muttered under her breath, slathering butter on her toast with a vengeance. I glanced over at Brenda, who was still secretly watching us, and a smile touched my lips. I walked over to Caleb and planted a kiss on his cheek. Well, I'm off to work, honey. Could you have the driver take Beanie to school today? The man was clearly taken aback. The toast in his hand fell onto the table. A smudge of red lipstick marked his otherwise pale cheek. I almost forgot I was wearing a very pigmented lipstick today. I instinctively reached out to wipe it off, but the red spread across his face with incredible speed until his whole face was flushed. Caleb turned bright red. I know. I'll take her later. I got up and left. I hadn't gone far when I heard the sound of a plate shattering. Brenda was apologizing, saying her hand had slipped. But as she bent down to pick up the pieces, the veins on her forehead were practically popping. Just as I stepped out of the villa, I got a text message. They spent a lot of money trying to dig up dirt on you. I'm trying to get close to Linda now, but it might take some time. I thought for a moment and typed back quickly, or you could try going through Brenda. I have an interesting game in mind. I used to work at an investment bank overseas. The CEO of my current company met me at a summit once. When she heard I was planning to return to the States, she offered me a high-paying job. Clara, it's time to show me what you've got. She handed me a stack of files and patted me on the shoulder. Working late and pulling all-nighters is common in our line of work, but Beanie needs her mom. Fortunately, my boss was understanding and allowed me to take my work home. When it was story time again that evening, Caleb went into Beanie's room as usual. I was in the living room on the phone. The reflection on the marble floor showed a shadowy figure sneaking up behind me, watching. Sell tomorrow. Follow the price I give you. You can buy along with me. Write down these numbers. The figure crept closer as I recited the stock tickers. Even after the call ended, I continued talking to myself. Things are going pretty well at the Collins house. The housekeeper here actually thinks her daughter can marry into the family. What a joke. Her daughter is just a junior cashier at the company, and she thinks she can climb to the top. I bet she's never even had a 7-figure bank account. At least I can make my own money. What does she have to compete with me? The shadow fidgeted for a moment and then quickly left. Satisfied, I left the living room. From then on, I would have work calls at home every night, sometimes in the living room, sometimes in the second-floor tea room. Until one day, my boss called me into her office. Clara, your skills have been obvious since you joined the company, but there's been a problem lately. My boss had me lock the door before she continued. We've noticed recently that every time we make a major sale or purchase, someone else is making the exact same moves, and the amounts are getting larger. I calmly swirled the tea in my cup and chuckled. Everyone's trying to make money. I can't be the only one making these moves. My judgment isn't that unique. Just be careful to keep your work confidential. I nodded and left the office. I received another text on my phone. The plan is going smoothly. I've successfully gained their trust. Everything was going according to plan. Soon enough, Linda came to visit with a pile of gifts. She tearfully recounted how the Collins family had cared for her over the years and quickly presented the presents. They were all expensive luxury items that even made Mrs. Collins pause. Can your salary afford all this, Linda? It's no problem. I'd sell everything I own to repay you, ma'am. Mrs. Collins was charmed and invited her to my wedding with Caleb. The smile on Linda's face stiffened for a moment, but she quickly agreed. Many guests attended the wedding. Everything was going smoothly. I was in the dressing room getting my makeup done while my assistant went to get my wedding dress. A few moments later, a cry of alarm rang out. How could this happen? I turned to look and saw the full state of the dress. The once exquisite and beautiful gown was now in tatters, ripped into several pieces of fabric draped over the mannequin. Mrs. Collins rushed in and gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. How could this be? I had my friend custom make this haute couture gown. Mr. Collins comforted his wife while his eyes scanned everyone's faces. Is someone trying to ruin the wedding, or are they trying to embarrass the Collins family? Many of the guests today were business associates of the Collins family. After Caleb's numerous failed blind dates, rumors had started to circulate that he was impotent. The Collins family had hoped this wedding would quash those rumors. But now, the dress was ruined. Mr. and Mrs. Collins, some guests are looking for you outside. Linda pushed the door open, and upon seeing the scene inside, she screamed. How could this have happened? The dress was perfect. How did it get destroyed? Someone must be trying to stop the wedding. She then walked over to me and clicked her tongue in feigned sympathy. Ms. Shen, this is your wedding, after all. It's one thing to let your mother-in-law handle everything yourself, but you should have at least kept your own dress safe. Unless you didn't want this wedding to happen and ruined it on purpose? You sound like you're enjoying this, don't you? I shot her a cold look, and Linda immediately fell silent. Mrs. Collins sighed, leaning against her husband in distress. How could such a beautiful dress end up like this? And there are so many people waiting outside. Linda quickly piped up, "Ma'am, please don't be upset. Maybe this is a sign from above." I immediately retorted, "Are you saying a pair of scissors fell from the sky and cut the dress to pieces?" I had already examined the dress carefully. The cuts were clean, clearly made by something sharp like scissors. But it was so shredded that it was beyond repair. "How about I call some nearby bridal shops and see if they have a ready-made dress we can use for now?" The moment I said that, Linda was the first to object. "Absolutely not. Ready-made dresses rarely fit well. Wearing one would just make the Collins family a laughingstock." Mrs. Collins didn't say anything, but it was clear she wasn't happy with that solution either. "No need. I've arranged for a backup." Caleb suddenly spoke. With one phone call, a team of staff arrived with a new wedding dress. It was a beautifully designed satin gown, adorned with pearls. Most importantly, it fit me perfectly, as if it had been custom-made to my measurements. Mrs. Collins was amazed, then it dawned on her. "Caleb, you had a wedding dress made for the wedding already?" I looked at Caleb, and he immediately dropped his gaze, avoiding my eyes. "No. I just prepared a backup plan, just in case." "Really? Isn't this dress from this year's French couture? I think the guests outside are looking for you." Caleb cut them off. Mr. Collins led his wife out, but not before giving his son a meaningful look. Seeing this, Linda had no choice but to leave dejectedly. The others went ahead to greet the guests, leaving just us. The makeup artist helped me change into the new dress. As she was tying the laces in the back, I stopped her and looked up at the man standing nearby. "Could you help me with this?" Everyone was busy with the wedding, except for Caleb, who had finished his makeup and changed early and was now leisurely sipping red wine. "Me?" After a moment of silence, he put down his glass and walked over. The makeup artist tactfully left. Caleb stood behind me, studying the corset laces, his brow furrowing tighter and tighter. As he tied the knot, his fingertips accidentally brushed against my skin, sending a shiver through me. I looked at the man in the mirror, and my thoughts were suddenly pulled back 5 years. "Did you remember something?" "No." "Did you have this dress made specially for me?" "No." His denial was so cold. As if to make it more convincing, he added, "It was just a backup plan. It's always good to have backups for important things, in case something like today happens." Before he could finish, I slapped his hands away, easily tied the laces myself, zipped up the dress, and turned around. He fell silent. "Stop pretending. The waist fits so perfectly there isn't a single wrinkle. It's obviously custom made." I remembered something he had said many years ago. "You said you would buy me a new white dress." I forgot. He turned to leave, his hand on the doorknob. Then he stopped. "And don't you dare be smug about my bad memory. Yours isn't much better." He left me with that parting shot, completely bewildered. What had I forgotten? Why did he sound like I owed him something? Thankfully, Caleb didn't bring it up again, and the wedding went off without a hitch. The reception was held at the Collins estate. Among the guests, I saw a familiar face. Vanessa raised her glass to me from across the room and mouthed, "Congratulations." We had known each other since we were kids. She used to live next door. My mom was deaf, and my dad was a gambling addict who would take our money for the casinos. If he lost, he would beat my mom and me. Back then, my room shared a wall with Vanessa's house. Whenever my dad's angry shouts filled our house during the day, a piece of candy would appear in the crack in the wall of my room that night. She was the only one who knew my past, the only one who knew my plan. I was about to go say hello when a conversation caught my attention. "I can't believe Mr. Collins is married just like that. I wonder how many women are heartbroken right now. I thought he was gay. I never heard about him having a girlfriend, and then suddenly he's married. That's not the whole story. The reason he didn't get married before might have been because of Tiffany Langford. I heard they had a thing. Didn't Tiffany go abroad? I wonder what her reaction will be when she comes back and finds out he's married. I hear she's coming back soon. That's when things will get interesting. The group chuckled, then quickly sobered up when they noticed me standing nearby. I scanned the room and quickly found Linda. Since Tiffany was coming back soon, I needed to speed things up. I walked toward Linda and bumped into her shoulder hard from behind. Who was that? She spun around angrily, a large red wine stain now blooming on her dress. She held the spilled glass, her eyes burning with a look that could kill. Clara, you vicious woman. What are you trying to do? I'm trying to remind you that your dress is a knockoff. Linda glanced down at her dress and a smug smile spread across her face. Impossible. I bought this at a boutique. I have the receipt. Oh. Then you must just be cheap. You make even an authentic dress look like a fake. Linda's face changed. What did you say? I took a step closer, studying her, and the image of her in a school uniform gradually superimposed itself. You used to have that same expression on your face. What do you mean? That looking down your nose expression. You loved bullying the weak, but you'd do anything to suck up to those in power. Like our high school homeroom teacher. Linda started trembling like a leaf. I know what you two did in his office. You didn't think I'd be able to find proof after all these years, did you? Her face was as white as a sheet, a stark contrast to the flushed face she'd had in the office that day. Back when I was being bullied, I tried to ask our homeroom teacher for help, but I accidentally walked in on them. Sir, that Jessica Shen is always causing trouble for me. You have to find a way to get rid of her. Well, Jessica is an honors student who was specially admitted. I don't care. I've given you so much. If you don't help me, I'll tell everyone that you're sleeping with your own student. After that, my suffering was ignored. My books and my desk always smelled foul. When I stood up to answer a question in class, my chair would be pulled out from under me. My head would hit the corner of the desk with a loud thud, and the whole class would roar with laughter. But the piece of chalk the teacher threw would hit me square on the head. Jessica Shen, if you don't want to learn, then get out. I still remember the pain of those days. How could they have forgotten? Linda stumbled back, her lower back hitting the corner of a table. She let out a terrified scream, then quickly covered her mouth. You're Jessica Shen? Impossible. You're dead, aren't you? I wonder, when they heard the news of my death, were they gloating? Or were they disappointed they had lost a toy to play with? Yeah. Surprised? I crawled back to find you. By the way, that teacher. Was he good in bed? Are you two still in touch? Jessica Shen. She screamed at me. I raised a finger to my lips, signaling for her to be quiet. Don't you know the surveillance cameras in this hall were just upgraded? They can capture everyone's expressions and record audio. Everything you say will be recorded. Linda trembled, looking at me in terror. What do you want? Nothing. I was just wondering, after all that time you spent sleeping with the teacher, did his wife ever find out? You took 2 weeks off in your senior year. Was that for an abortion? How did you know? You were already gone by then. Of course I knew. I've been keeping a very close eye on them all these years. Just like they used to keep a close eye on me. But your mother, really? She was so afraid that an abortion on your record would ruin your chances of marrying into a rich family that she took you to a back alley clinic. Can you even have children now? Stop it. Shut up. Shut up. She lunged at me like a madwoman. I gave her a hard shove, and she went flying into the champagne tower. The festive atmosphere was shattered. Mr. Collins was the first to arrive. He looked at the mess, his eyes filled with displeasure. What's going on here? The champagne tower had collapsed and broken glass was everywhere, making it impossible for anyone to get close. As Linda struggled, the shards of glass cut her in numerous places. Blood slowly stained the white tablecloth. I suddenly remembered that day in gym class when a few people held me down in the rain. My period had started unexpectedly, and Linda had stolen the supplies I'd prepared. Blood stained my pants. Linda and her friends stood under the eaves, laughing their heads off. Did she have a miscarriage? I wonder whose baby it was. I see her talking to the old security guard at the gate after school every day. Maybe it's his. But that guard is in his 70s. They made fun of me, spread rumors about me without a care. Now, I stood looking down at Linda, covered in cuts and lying on the floor. When Brenda saw what happened, she screamed and rushed over. What happened? Who did this to you? She tried to help her daughter but cut her hand on the glass. She whipped her head around and her eyes immediately locked on me, the person standing closest. Was it you? You tried to hurt my daughter. Do you have proof? I hadn't expected Caleb to show up right then. He took my hand and pulled me behind him, shielding me from Brenda's glare. I looked up and could only see his broad back. The hand holding mine seemed to be trembling slightly. But this wasn't the time for him to play hero. I stepped forward and looked at Brenda and Linda with a small smile. I don't know how she fell. Why don't we check the security footage? It records everything that's said and done. Fine by me. I'm not scared. You're the one who pushed my daughter. Just then, Linda summoned her remaining strength and grabbed her mother's hand. No, don't. She knows about me. Knows what? Don't be afraid. Mr. and Mrs. Collins are right here. They'll stand up for you and make Clara pay. It's not Clara. It's Jessica Shen. At the mention of that name, Brenda froze. The guests had all left, and Linda was being loaded into an ambulance. As she was leaving, she held on to Brenda tightly and whispered something to her. Brenda's body shuddered, and when she looked at me again, her eyes were filled with terror. Just to clear Ms. Linda's name, let's watch the footage. No. We can't. She rushed toward me, desperate to stop me from revealing her daughter's past. In the scuffle, my hand slipped, and I played a different video. It wasn't footage from the ballroom, but from the hallway outside the dressing room before the wedding. Oops, looks like I played the wrong one. Brenda's face paled at the familiar scene. Soon, her own image appeared on the screen. She was sneaking around the dressing room door. After making sure no one was around, she pushed the door open and went inside, holding something sharp in her hand. What's that? Mrs. Collins spotted the object in her hand and immediately zoomed in. It was a pair of sharp scissors. Brenda, what were you doing in the dressing room? I was just checking on the dress. Brenda stammered. Caleb let out a cold laugh. Besides us, she was the only one who went into the dressing room today. After that, the dress was ruined. It's obvious who wanted to sabotage the wedding. Mrs. Collins stared at the screen in disbelief. Brenda, you've worked for our family for so many years. I never thought you were this kind of person. Ma'am, please give me another chance. Brenda dropped to her knees and started bowing her head repeatedly. Mrs. Collins turned away, and no one else in the room, except for me, gave her a second glance. The chaos tonight was all caused by this mother-daughter duo. They had nearly made the Collins family a laughingstock. Brenda, pack your things and leave. We've been more than fair to you. Mrs. Collins left first. Brenda's desperate pleas couldn't stir any more sympathy from her. I looked at Caleb and said softly, could you go check if our daughter is asleep? I'd like to have a word with Brenda. Caleb nodded and left. I walked over to Brenda and knelt down. She looked up and met my smiling eyes. You're Jessica Shen. But you're supposed to be dead. Yeah, surprise. What was it you used to say about me and my mom? I paused for a moment, then said slowly, a bitch's whelp. You think you're worthy of talking to me? My feud with Linda goes all the way back to the first day of high school. I had been admitted to the best high school in the city on a scholarship because of my excellent grades. My mom was so happy she barely slept for days, packing my things. On the day of registration, she walked me to school. But in the crowded school entrance, she accidentally stepped on Brenda's leather shoe. Hey! Who stepped on me? Don't you even know how to apologize? I'm sorry, ma'am. My mother is deaf. Even though my mom apologized over and over in sign language and bowed repeatedly, Brenda still shoved her to the ground. You bitch. Do you have any idea how much these shoes cost? How could a family like yours ever afford to pay for them? Brenda, wearing those chunky heeled shoes, kicked my mom in the stomach. She looked us up and down in our simple clothes, sneered, and said the words I would never forget for the rest of my life. My mom didn't know what she was saying, but she could tell from her expression that it wasn't anything good. She covered my ears and made soft, apologetic sounds. Finally, she knelt before Brenda and used her own sleeve to wipe the scuff mark off her shoe. All these years, you've used the Collins family's name to throw your weight around. But a fake will always be a fake. Brenda glared at me, her eyes filled with hate, and scrambled to her feet. Don't pretend to be Jessica Shin. You're no better. Weren't you just a dog at my daughter's feet back then? Have you forgotten the days you spent wagging your tail and begging? Don't think you're somebody just because you've latched onto the Collins family. I'm telling you, your day of reckoning is coming. She turned to leave, but as she walked past the rug at her feet, she spat on it heavily. What's so great about the Collins family? I found a way to make money now. My good days are just beginning. Brenda walked away with a swagger. Just after she left, I got a text from Vanessa. Brenda wants to meet me tomorrow. Then meet with her. I put my phone away and watched her leave, a smile playing on my lips. Arrogant fool. The gifts I had for her were far from over. Tonight's drama was finally over. I rubbed my sore neck and was about to head upstairs. As I stepped onto the first stair, I looked up and saw someone at the top of the landing. Caleb was standing there, waiting for me. The light was dim, so I couldn't see his expression, nor could I tell how long he had been standing there. And I couldn't be sure if he had heard our conversation. Is Beanie asleep? I tried to sound casual as I walked toward him. Caleb didn't move. It wasn't until I was passing him that he finally spoke. Are you with me just to use me? I stopped and turned to look at him, but the hallway lights were all off, and he seemed to blend into the darkness. I reached for the light switch, but he grabbed my wrist. Tell me. I want the truth. Unfortunately, the truth was bound to hurt. I stood up straight, keeping a step's distance between us, and spoke coldly. I drugged you, had a baby through IVF overseas, and came back to marry you. Do you think I did all that because I had nothing better to do? I had planned everything from the beginning. Brenda was the Collins family's housekeeper, and Linda was a student they sponsored. I had heard Caleb's name from them more than once. And Tiffany, she was finally coming back. It was time to settle our accounts. Caleb, I know you're innocent in all this, and it was wrong of me to use you. But it's done. I apologize. Is there anything you want as compensation? I thought about what I had to offer. How about I recommend some stocks for you? You could make a lot of money. Or if you want to short someone's company, I can help with that too. I couldn't see his face in the dark, so I didn't know if he was satisfied with my offer. But the hand holding my wrist suddenly let go, only to quickly intertwine his fingers with mine. Before I could react, he pulled me into his arms. I want you. I waited for him to continue, feeling his heart pounding in his chest. I want you, Clara. Or should I call you Jessica? But when I met you, you were already using your current name. Did you remember something? Or did you never forget? Everyone said he had amnesia after being taken advantage of. How could it be that he remembered everything else but me? Do you want me to remember? Remember how we first met, even if it wasn't perfect? Or would you rather I forget the past and we start over? Tonight is our wedding night. Caleb's embrace was so intense, it was almost scalding, and it made me uncomfortable. I couldn't be a moth to a flame, burning myself up just for a moment of warmth. Caleb, I don't know what you want, but if it's true love, I don't have it. I had lost that a long time ago. Even though it was our wedding night, the atmosphere was heavy. Lying in the same bed, Caleb and I felt miles apart. But this was what I wanted. I didn't need a deep connection, I just needed to achieve my goal. I continued to have my work calls in the living room at night. 2 weeks later, Vanessa gave me an address, saying Brenda had asked to meet her again. This time, I followed them, staying close enough to hear their entire conversation. Miss Hayes, thank you so much for the past few times. We wouldn't have made so much money without you. You're welcome, Mrs. Miller. It's what I do as a financial analyst. Have you considered what we discussed? Brenda looked troubled and nudged her daughter, Linda. Linda, have you thought about what I told you? The risk is too high. I haven't decided yet. Besides, if the company finds out. They won't. You can just put the money back afterward. You're just moving it through your account. Miss Hayes said this stock has a lot of potential. Besides. Brenda leaned in and whispered something in Linda's ear. After a moment of silence, Linda gritted her teeth and agreed. A smile touched my lips, and I got up and left the cafe. That night, on a call with a client, I mentioned the same stock Vanessa had recommended to Brenda and Linda. Buy as soon as the market opens tomorrow. We need to get in on this one fast and grab the initiative, or we won't even get the scraps. I drained the glass of water on the table, my eyes catching a small, blinking red light under the corner of the table. The stock market opens at 9 a.m. Just after noon, Vanessa sent me a text. The Millers have been blowing up my phone. I need to lie low for a bit. You're on your own for the rest. I knew what that meant and waited for Brenda to come find me. I didn't expect Caleb to be the one to show up first. He said he was in the neighborhood and could pick me up from work, but our offices were on opposite sides of the city. I couldn't imagine a route that would make that on the way. Ever since Caleb's questions that night, I'd had a feeling that things were starting to spiral out of my control. As the car pulled into the driveway, I saw a woman throwing a tantrum at the gate. The moment I got out of the car, Brenda abandoned her act and rushed toward me. You bitch! How dare you set me up? Before she could get close, the butler intercepted her. Caleb stepped in front of me, shielding me. She doesn't work here anymore. Why haven't you removed her from the property? But Brenda refused to leave, rolling around on the ground, demanding an explanation. You're the reason we're in this mess. You have to give me an answer today. How did I put you in a mess? You'd better explain yourself. She scrambled to her feet and pointed a trembling finger at me. You tricked us. Why didn't the stock make money this time? Do you have any idea? Which stocks I buy is my business. What does it have to do with you? I stepped forward, grabbed her pointing finger, and bent it back. She howled in pain and blurted out. I heard you. I heard you say you were going to buy that stock. Everyone stared, wide-eyed. The butler gasped. Brenda. You can't just say things like that. Where did you hear that? Just give me an answer. I've lost all my money. Her hair was a mess, and she looked like a ghost as she lunged at me, only to be shoved away by Caleb. Just then, a phone rang. He answered it, and his face immediately changed. Brenda, where is your daughter? I don't know. Brenda's eyes darted around, and she shook her head repeatedly, trying to run. With a look from Caleb, the butler blocked her path. Linda has fled with company funds, and you have the nerve to come here and demand an explanation? You can explain yourself to the police. The Collins estate was huge, so finding a tiny bug was a challenge. But with enough people searching, they soon found listening devices in the living room, the second-floor tea room, and our bedroom. When the evidence was laid out in front of her, Brenda shook her head like a bobblehead doll. No, I only put them in the living room and the tea room. I never went into the young master's room. The evidence is right here. Are you still going to deny it? Caleb held up the bug, and beside him, Mr. Collins's face was grim. I can't believe we had a mole in our own house. We treated you and your daughter so well, and now your daughter dares to take company money to play the stock market. No, Mr. Collins, believe me. I really thought it was a sure thing. We were just trying to repay your kindness all these years, that's why we took the risk. Brenda bowed her head repeatedly, then immediately pointed at me. She's the one who set me up. We made money every other time we invested. This time, she did it on purpose to ruin us and make me lose my money. Sir, young master, don't think she's some kind of saint. Her name isn't Clara, it's Jessica Shen. And her mother is deaf. This bitch had a grudge against my daughter from way back, that's why she's doing this to us. Enough. Caleb cut her off, looking at her as if she were garbage. We don't need you to tell us about her past. You should be thinking about what you're going to tell the police. Hearing the approaching sirens, Brenda collapsed to the floor, her face ashen. My game of chess was finally reaching its end. From the moment I knew she was listening, I deliberately discussed work at home and had Vanessa get close to them. The goal was to gain their trust and get them to follow my stock picks. The mother-daughter duo were novices in this area. After a few small wins, their greed grew. Until this time, they bet everything they had, even embezzling company funds. And the result was a total loss. As for the bug in our room, I had planted it myself, just to make sure Brenda would never have a chance to recover. Mr. Collins had her thrown out. As she was being dragged away, Brenda lunged at me. Clara, I'll haunt you. You just wait. Me and my Linda won't let you get away with this. Oh, you mean your daughter who's hiding out of state? I already know where she is. In this day and age, finding someone is incredibly easy. Brenda really thought she could escape justice by going into hiding. How naive. I leaned in and whispered in her ear. Now it's your turn to be homeless. Back when I was being bullied and had no choice but to drop out of school, my mom wanted me to rest and recover. But Linda wouldn't let me go. She had Brenda pay off our landlord to evict us. The moment we were thrown out, the two of them stood there, smiling triumphantly. The police took her away, and the drama finally ended. Caleb, come to my study. Mr. Collins looked furious. He called Caleb away, and I guessed it was about what had just happened. I had set up Brenda and her daughter, but in doing so, I had also affected the Collins family's interests. If I hadn't repeatedly tempted Brenda, she wouldn't have thought to embezzle company funds. The two of them were talking in the study. I went back to our room. After the search, the butler was now directing the staff to put everything back in its place. I sat on the sofa, and something on the nightstand caught my eye. Wait a minute. What is it, madam? I walked over quickly. When I saw the button on the nightstand, I froze. The butler followed my gaze, and his face paled too. Who put this out? This is the young master's most prized possession. Caleb's most prized possession was a button. Anyone else would have laughed. But there it was, nestled in a velvet box, carefully preserved. From the way the butler was scolding the staff, I could tell how precious it was. I picked it up and held it in my palm. The butler nervously reminded me. Madam, maybe you should put that down. The young master won't be happy if he sees. He never lets anyone touch it. It's just a button. Besides, it's mine. What? The butler's eyes widened, and he was speechless. I looked at the button in my hand, and my mind was pulled back 9 years. To when Caleb and I first met. He was a campus celebrity, and I was just a nobody. We first crossed paths in the dean's office. As I walked in, I heard one of the counselors yelling. Caleb Collins, skipping class is one thing, but getting into a fight? What were you thinking? I froze when I heard his name. The last time I had heard it was from Linda, a memory I didn't want to relive. It was the counselor's voice that brought me back. Clara, the reason I asked you to come in is to talk about your student records. There are a few things we need to confirm. Basically, because I had transferred high schools and changed my name, there were some discrepancies in my records that required me to submit some paperwork. I quickly agreed. As I was leaving, I couldn't help but glance at the other side of the office. Caleb stood there, hands in his pockets, not looking the least bit remorseful. He seemed to be ignoring the counselor's lecture, casually looking around the room until his eyes met mine. As I stepped out of the office, someone called out to me from behind. "Hey, what was that look for?" Caleb had followed me out. He looked me up and down. "I haven't done anything to you, have I? You were looking at me like you wanted to eat me alive." "No, I wasn't." "You're mistaken. I just hadn't expected to see him here." I had heard his name from Linda and Tiffany, two people who haunted my nightmares, and apparently, they were both infatuated with him. But I didn't want to see him. He reminded me of a painful past. "Really? Then why are you running away? Don't go." He grabbed my sleeve, and with a ripping sound, a cold draft hit my arm. Caleb immediately let go. "I didn't pull that hard. There's something wrong with the quality of your dress." The button from my sleeve was still in his hand. I clutched the torn spot on my shoulder and glared at him. "So? Are you satisfied now? Please get out of my way." I turned and walked away, vowing never to speak to him again. But his annoying voice followed me. "It's just a dress. I'll buy you a new white one, all right?" The button in my hand felt like it had traveled through time. Caleb tried to talk to me a few times after that, but I was always rushing to my part-time job. When I told him to just give me the money, he refused. "I'll take you to the mall. You can pick out any dress you want. I'll buy you 10, 100 even." "Hey, don't go. Can I get your—" My memories were cut short by a loud crash from the study. I walked out into the hall just as Beanie opened her door to see what was going on. "Mommy, when is Daddy coming to read me a story?" Beanie yawned, a storybook in her hand. I could hear angry shouts from the study. I gently pushed her back into her room. "I'll read to you." "No, I want Daddy to read to me. He promised he would read to me today." Beanie looked at me with big, sad eyes. I had no choice but to head toward the study. As I approached the door, I heard Mr. Collins's angry voice. "Caleb, there's a limit to how much you can indulge your feelings. You're dragging the entire Collins family into her drama." Inside the study, Mr. Collins looked at his son kneeling on the floor, his head throbbing. "We don't object to you having someone you like. She tricked you into having a child and marrying into our family, and you didn't press the issue, so we have no right to say anything. But now, Linda running off with company funds was her doing. How are we supposed to explain this to the board? No, Linda was the one who embezzled the money. It has nothing to do with Clara. Besides, weren't you the ones who trusted Linda and hired her in the first place?" Mr. Collins gritted his teeth, speechless. I stood outside the door. Just as it opened from the inside, my eyes met Caleb's. It's nothing. Let's go back." Caleb led me away without another word, leaving Mr. Collins alone in the study to sigh in frustration. The button was still on the nightstand. The moment we got back to the room, Caleb noticed it. "Why is this out?" He opened the box, checked to make sure the button was undamaged, and then carefully placed it in a drawer. "You would have thought it was a priceless jewel. Why did you keep it?" "Why wouldn't I? It's not like you left me anything else. We barely spoke in college. Caleb had sought me out a few times, but I was too busy with my part-time jobs to pay him any mind. After that, it seemed like we only ever saw each other where I worked. When I was busy taking orders at the coffee shop, he would order a coffee and sit there for the entire afternoon. You didn't have a crush on me way back then, did you?" The thought sounded ridiculous even to me. But when Caleb turned to look at me, his gaze was surprisingly serious. "I did. Is that not allowed? I liked you, but you avoided me from the first moment we met. And whenever I tried to find you after that, you always had an excuse. I went to your job to see you, but you were too busy working to talk to me. Want to guess who tipped you off about me being at the bar that night? It hit me like a ton of bricks. The night I drugged Caleb, I had received a text from an unknown number. Caleb is at the bar at 32 Ocean Drive. At the time, I thought it was from Vanessa. I was so focused on my plan that I didn't even think to verify it. It was only after I was overseas that Vanessa told me she had never sent such a message. So, that text was from you. Yes. Your friend was following me, but she wasn't very good at it. Once I found out it was your friend, I didn't pursue it. I had always thought I was the one pulling all the strings, that Caleb had no idea. The reason I went after him was simple. I had heard he was going to marry Tiffany Langford in an arranged marriage. And Tiffany was one of the people who had bullied me. Back then, Linda was just her lackey. Once, when Linda had locked me in a bathroom and thrown a rat in, Tiffany had happened to walk by as I was screaming and laughed. I heard her mom is deaf. I didn't know she could talk. Or does she only scream when she's scared? That night, my mom was in a car accident. Vanessa's mom brought her home, saying a car had come straight at her, but thankfully, she had managed to dodge it in time and only sprained her ankle. I managed to get the security footage and recognized the car immediately. It was Tiffany's family car. She had her family pick her up in that flashy red sports car once. But the next day, the footage was gone. We had spent all our money on my ear treatments, so my mom couldn't even afford to go to the hospital. Tiffany's cruelty towards me was completely unprovoked. She was the heiress of the Langford family and saw me as nothing more than an aunt. But what had I done wrong? So when I found out she was going to marry Caleb, this plan started to form in my mind. But it seemed things were not what I had expected. I asked Caleb why he didn't stop me if he knew my plan. He just laughed. Why would I stop you? If I did, would we have a future? By then, I had already earned a full scholarship to study abroad. Before I left, I put my plan into action. I slept with Caleb and then fled the country. But for some reason, the arranged marriage between the Collins and Langford families never happened. Tiffany even stayed abroad for several years without coming back. Fortunately, through various inquiries, I found out when Tiffany was scheduled to return. I didn't expect her to have a surprise for me. The company's performance last quarter was excellent, and they threw a party to celebrate. On the day of the party, the big screen was supposed to be showing a PowerPoint of my achievements, but it was suddenly replaced with a video. Jessica Shen, look at the camera and smile. Didn't you hear me? I hate it when she looks like that. Hit her. Hit her until she smiles. In the video, a group of girls in school uniforms were slapping another girl. The sound of the slaps and the girls' screams echoed through the ballroom. The audience shuddered, and my boss was furious. Who put this video on? Turn it off right now. The colleague in charge of the presentation looked distraught, saying she had no idea what happened. Only I stared at the screen, lost in thought. Back then, Tiffany loved to record my suffering on her phone. At the end of the video, a taunting message appeared. Clara, a gift for you. Do you like it? The crowd gasped, and all eyes turned to me. My boss whispered that she would get to the bottom of this. I nodded, trying to look composed, and thanked her. The moment I stepped out of the ballroom, my smile vanished. When I got back to the Collins estate, Beanie was already asleep. Caleb's gentle approach had worked wonders. In such a short time, Beanie had completely fallen for her father. She often brought him up in conversation. Once, she even asked me, Mommy, will we be with Daddy forever? I had never considered that question. In the beginning, I hadn't even thought Caleb and his family would accept this child so quickly. In this whole plan, the only one I felt guilty about was my daughter. She was so young, and she had come into this world because of my selfish reasons. She would most likely have to endure ridicule and scorn. I had overheard the staff talking about her origins once, but after Caleb happened to hear them, I never saw those people again. Do you like your dad? I do. I want to be with him forever, but My daughter paused, then grabbed my hand. I still need you with me, Mommy. As long as I have you, that's all that matters. Daddy said you've been through a lot, and he knows everything. So no matter what you do, he'll support you. I snapped out of my thoughts and looked at the Collins villa, sighing. Caleb was such an enigma. As I walked through the door, I heard laughter from inside. The butler told me we had a guest. Miss Langford is here. She's talking with Madam. I was startled. I walked inside and my eyes met hers. After all these years, Tiffany Langford was still as dazzling as ever, dressed in designer clothes, a reckless smile on her face. So this is Caleb's wife? Yes, Tiffany. Let me introduce you. This is Clara. Clara, this is Tiffany Langford. Our families have always been very close. Tiffany nodded at me and smiled slyly. That's right. Our families are so close, we almost merged through marriage. The moment she said that, the atmosphere turned awkward. The smile on Mrs. Collins's face froze. We were just thinking, since our families are so close, maybe we should arrange a marriage, but I refused. Just then, Caleb came down the stairs. The moment Tiffany saw him, her eyes lit up. You're back so late. Why didn't you call me to pick you up? Caleb walked over to me and took my bag. His practiced movement caught me off guard. Seeing Tiffany across the room, I quickly recovered and linked my arm with his. It's okay. I didn't want to bother you when you're so busy with work. A smile touched his lips, but it vanished when he looked at Tiffany. Mom, I thought I made myself clear before. I don't want to see her. Tiffany clenched her fists, her smile stiffening. Caleb, you really don't want to see me? Even after all these years, you still can't forgive me? Mrs. Collins quickly stepped in to smooth things over and had the driver take Tiffany home. Once she was gone, she turned and shot Caleb a sharp look. I don't understand. What's the problem between you and Tiffany? The arranged marriage was all set, and then you suddenly backed out. And you've been targeting the Langford family at work ever since. Tell me the truth. What did Tiffany ever do to you? Forget the marriage, you're a married man now. You should act like an adult. Do you have to make things so tense between our families? Caleb glanced at me, then led me upstairs, leaving his mother with only, I'll explain some other time. The moment Mrs. Collins was out of sight, I couldn't hold back anymore. What happened between you and Tiffany? She wanted an arranged marriage, and I said no. His eyes met mine, and he fell silent. The moment he pushed the door open, he pinned me against it. His warm embrace was disorienting. Caleb held both my hands and whispered in my ear. Do you remember what you said to me back then? Which part? The night you slept with me. He gently bit my earlobe, his teeth grazing the sensitive skin. Even though he wasn't using any force, a shiver ran down my spine. I let out a small cry and quickly covered my mouth. My reaction made him laugh. His other hand roamed my waist. Do you remember? You said you wouldn't leave. You were always coming and going, never staying for more than a moment. You were the one who came on to me every night. You said you wouldn't leave. But you lied to me. When I woke up the next morning, you were gone. My memory of that night is hazy. Caleb's stamina was incredible. I seriously thought I was going to die in that bed. All I remember is begging for him to stop, and he suddenly held me close and whispered. Don't go. You're not allowed to go this time. I was completely spent. I gave him a push, but he didn't budge. Fine, fine. I won't go. As if. The first thing I did when I woke up in the middle of the night was pack my things and run. The next day, I was on a flight out of the country. You've held on to that one little thing for this long? How is that a little thing? Do you know what I was thinking that night? I thought our relationship was finally going somewhere. I didn't care if you were using me or what your motives were. But you just dumped me. Caleb's emotions suddenly flared, and his grip on my hands tightened. I let out a small whimper, and he snapped back to reality, immediately letting go of me. I'm sorry. I found out through your friend that you had bought sleeping pills online. I thought you were going to use them on me. At the time, I was thinking you didn't need to go to all that trouble. If you had just been willing to talk to me a little more, you would have realized I've been wanting to get to know you. My college years were a blur of part-time jobs and classes. My first encounter with Caleb didn't make any impression on me. Not until the rumors started flying that he was getting engaged to the Langford heiress. That's when I remembered my past. It was a nightmare that I couldn't escape, and I wanted revenge. By any means necessary. Have you looked into my past? Caleb gently rubbed my wrists and nodded. But I still want to hear it from you. You rarely talk to me. I used to be quite chatty, but after meeting you, I started to wonder why some people are so quiet. So I thought if I tried to be like you, maybe I could understand what you were going through. I had to laugh at that. I've always been like this, always careful with my words. But you don't have to be like me. He was the sole heir to the Collins fortune. Every word he said, every look he gave, was taken seriously. I sat down on the sofa, and Caleb sat beside me. The events of the party were still fresh in my mind. Just staying calm had taken all my energy. Now, I leaned against his shoulder and started to tell him my story. Linda used your family's influence to be a tyrant at school. I crossed her once, and she started bullying me. For a while, I couldn't hear properly. The moment I said that, Caleb grabbed my hand, his voice trembling. I know. I found your medical records. Yeah. My family spent everything they had on my treatment. My dad was a gambling addict, and when he heard I had used up all our money, he got angry and tried to hit me. My mom almost got her leg broken protecting me. It was only later that I found out Tiffany was the one who told him. If Linda's bullying was purely physical, Tiffany was an expert at psychological torture. My parents were already divorced, and my mom and I had moved several times, but Tiffany always gave him our new address. Just to watch us live in constant fear. I had never done anything to her, but she seemed to enjoy my suffering, treating me like a toy. It wasn't until I overheard them talking that I realized they both had a crush on you. That was when I first retaliated. I planted a love letter in Linda's desk, written in her handwriting and addressed to Caleb. Tiffany caught her with it. That day, I watched Linda kneel in the pouring rain, begging Tiffany, swearing she would never have any improper thoughts about Caleb. I posted a picture of it online, hoping to expose Tiffany's true colors. But the picture was deleted within 24 hours, and I was expelled from school shortly after. Not only that, my dad found us again. I wanted to get rid of him for good. But I couldn't touch Tiffany, so I had to be patient. I couldn't let them ruin my life. I had to start over. The next time my dad showed up at our house demanding money and started hitting me, Vanessa called the police, screaming that someone was being murdered. The story got twisted as it spread, and by the time it reached my old school, Linda thought I was dead. The principal was so afraid my mom would go to the media that he gave us a sum of money to keep quiet. I took that money, transferred schools, and changed my name. Maybe God hadn't completely abandoned me. I had a good brain. Once my hearing recovered, my grades shot back up. I got into a decent university, and that's where I met Caleb. I really hated you at first. Just hearing your name would bring back all the things they did to me. So I stayed as far away from you as I could. Until the day my mom passed away. Vanessa called me and told me to come home right away. My mom had jumped from a building. In our apartment, I found a picture of me that someone had taken secretly. Tell your daughter to behave, or I'll kill you. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Tiffany's. My mom didn't want to be a burden to me, so she chose this drastic way out. After I handled her funeral, I went back to school and heard the news about Caleb's arranged marriage. Thinking back now, it was probably because you were paying too much attention to me. She must have seen it and decided to get rid of me. She never told Linda I was alive, never sent her to bully me again. Instead, she chose the most painful way to hurt me. And with nothing left to lose, I decided to risk it all. I'm sorry. Caleb squeezed my hand and apologized softly. It's okay. You indirectly hurt me, and I used you. We're even. I don't agree. Why should we be even? I can help you. Whatever you want, revenge or anything else, I'll do it. Caleb grabbed my hand, his eyes filled with urgency. Sometimes I really couldn't figure him out. He had been inexplicably watching me for years, even following me to my part-time jobs. And after I used him, he acted like he would do anything for me. Why are you doing this for me? Because I love you. Caleb's answer was firm and unwavering. Is "I love you" a good enough reason? For that reason, would do anything for you. What do you love about me? Caleb paused, his eyes slowly drifting downward. The first time we met wasn't in the dean's office. It was earlier, on the first day of university. Even after all these years, Caleb remembered it clearly. He said he saw me in the crowd and couldn't look away. You didn't fit in with anyone else. You were dressed plainly, carrying a cheap woven bag, but when you saw a beggar at the school gate, you gave him $200. I was going to warn you that the beggar only shows up on registration day because he knows a lot of people are soft-hearted and easy to trick. I wanted to talk to you, but someone beat me to it. I remembered. A senior had come over and told me not to fall for it. I was just staring at the sign the beggar had next to him. The beggar was a woman in rags. Her sign said her daughter was being bullied at school and she was trying to raise money for a lawyer. I saw the same despair in her eyes that I felt in my own. That day, you were the only one I noticed. You were so kind, it was almost foolish. But then I heard someone say you were the top scorer on the entrance exam, and I couldn't believe it. The next time I saw you was in the dean's office. You looked at me, heard my name, and then turned and left. I recognized you and thought to myself, why would such a kind person look at me with so much hatred in her eyes? Caleb said he just wanted to understand why I hated him. But in the process, he lost his heart. Clara, if you ignored me because you hated me, can you try to accept me now? He took my hand and placed it on his chest, letting me feel the frantic beat of his heart. I'd been thinking, maybe if you fell in love with me, you'd finally be willing to talk to me. The day you're willing to talk to me is the day you start to like me. His chest was so warm, it was unsettling. Caleb's feelings were an unexpected surprise. Maybe I could use this to achieve my goals faster. But the thought made me hesitate. Caleb, I wish you didn't love me. Then I could use him without any guilt. Now, it's going to be so much harder to use you. It won't be. You can use me as much as you want. Caleb bent down and pressed a kiss to the back of my hand. Just say the word, and I'm yours. He said I could have my revenge any way I wanted. I said I wanted to see Tiffany. The Langford family had been busy networking lately, arranging golf outings with old friends. The Langford family's influence was a shadow of its former self. I had seen their financial reports. They were on the verge of collapse. That's why they were so desperate for new partnerships. The arranged marriage would have been their saving grace, but Caleb had unexpectedly backed out. He had even snatched a major project from them, and the two families had almost come to blows. Watching the once arrogant Tiffany now groveling was a curious sight. What happened after I went abroad? Caleb was crouching down to tie Beanie's shoelaces. He chuckled at my question, his tone light. Nothing much. You just suddenly left, and I was looking for you everywhere, but they were still trying to set me up on blind dates. I found out about you and Tiffany, so I called off the arranged marriage, stole a few of their projects, and then... Caleb drew out his words, a strange smile on his face. He covered Beanie's ears and, making sure she couldn't hear, whispered. I also arranged for a car accident. It just grazed Tiffany, but it scared her half to death. She went abroad to recover. No wonder Tiffany was too scared to come back for years. And when she finally did, she found out we were married. She must have been furious to send me that video as a gift. Daddy, what are you talking about? Beanie couldn't hear with her ears covered. She pushed his hands away and glared at us. You have secrets and you're not telling me. Humph, I'm going to tell Grandma and Grandpa. She turned and ran toward Mr. and Mrs. Collins. I was about to call her back, but Caleb stopped me. Now that we've been honest with each other, why don't you tell me your plan? My plan was actually very simple, so simple I didn't even bother sharing it with him. But Caleb insisted. So, on the way to the golf course, I whispered it in his ear. Unfortunately, someone saw us. Mr. and Mrs. Collins are so affectionate. It makes us all envious. Indeed. Mr. Collins was so against marriage before, but now he's done a complete 180. The others joined in the flattery, and Mrs. Collins beamed. But Tiffany, standing nearby, looked furious. I instinctively tightened my hold on Caleb's arm. He got the hint and spoke up. I just hadn't met the right person before. Others weren't up to par and were just trying to climb the social ladder. Naturally, I couldn't be nice to them. Tiffany's face turned as dark as a thundercloud. She was used to being treated like a princess, but Caleb constantly put her in her place. She shot a hateful look at me and said provocatively, "Do you play golf, Miss Shen? How about a match?" I don't. I never had time for hobbies. I was too busy working and raising a child overseas. That was exactly what Tiffany wanted to hear. She burst out laughing. I hear you come from a humble background, Miss Shen. Now that you're Mrs. Collins, you should really try to change. Otherwise, people will talk. Tiffany's mother tried to pull her back, but she shook her off and continued to mock me. But then again, a leopard can't change its spots. Where you come from determines a lot of things that can't be changed. But don't mind me, Miss Shen. I'm just rambling. Tiffany, that's enough. No one talks to my daughter-in-law like that. Mrs. Collins's face darkened, and Tiffany finally shut up. I smiled calmly and started to applaud. Well said, Ms. Langford. But who says where you come from can't be changed? It might be hard to climb up from the bottom, but falling from the top can happen overnight. Then I leaned in and whispered in her ear. I hear your father has a son from an affair. Is he doing well? Tiffany's face instantly paled. The Langford family thought they had kept that secret perfectly hidden, but I had seen the signs. Tiffany's father had barely stood with his wife and daughter all day. Instead, his gaze was constantly fixed on a young boy playing golf nearby. Who would have thought? She goes abroad for a few years to lay low, and in her absence, another woman brings a son into the family. I wonder if Tiffany has had a chance to deal with that situation since she's been back. Most importantly, her once proud status as the sole heir was now a thing of the past. The golf game was boring after that. It was just an opportunity for the Langfords to network. But Caleb clearly wasn't interested. He preferred to sit with Beanie and work on a puzzle rather than talk to the Langfords. Around noon, I went inside to order some food for Beanie. Tiffany quickly followed me. What should I call you now? Clara? Or Jessica? Oh, I almost forgot. You're not that pathetic little dog anymore. That's right. So why are you provoking me? Have you forgotten? Dogs bite. With that, I slapped her hard across the face. The others, just walking in, froze at the scene. Only Tiffany's mother screamed. How could you hit my daughter? Oh, then I'll hit you too. And I slapped the socialite across the face. I hadn't forgotten how she had stood by and watched while her daughter bullied me at school. When a bystander tried to intervene, she had even blocked their path. It's just kids being kids. Don't make a big deal out of it. I'll be sure to have a talk with my daughter when we get home. I looked at the mother-daughter duo, both holding their faces, and couldn't help but laugh. Have you forgotten what you did? The socialite shielded Tiffany and started yelling at me. You have no manners. What happened back then was just child's play. And you've held a grudge for all these years, hitting my daughter in front of everyone. Are you trying to embarrass our family? Who said I was trying to embarrass your family? Caleb strode over and took my hand. My wife did nothing wrong. She only hit the people who deserved it. You. The socialite gasped for breath. Caleb was about to lead me away when Tiffany called out. Caleb, stop. How can you say that? What am I to you? Tiffany blocked our path and pointed at me. What's so great about her? Linda told me everything before she went to jail. That child is the result of her tricking you. She's vengeful, cruel, and manipulative. But you still choose her over me. Why? I had never seen Caleb look at someone with such disdain. He pulled me back a few steps, as if he were looking at a crazy person. First of all, you were never in the running. To me, you're an insignificant creature, not even a person. Secondly, if she is everything you say she is, it's because you made her that way. I will remember everything you did to her. And I won't let a single one of you get away with it. Tiffany trembled, tears welling in her eyes. She quickly wiped them away. She didn't say another word, but the look she gave me was filled with murderous intent. That night, there was a knock on my hotel room door. Caleb had been called away for an urgent phone call. He had a key card, but the knocking grew more frantic. Who is it? I opened the door, and a strange man lunged at me. In the distance, someone raised a camera. Hey, beautiful, Oof. Before he could finish, he went flying out of the room, clutching his stomach in pain. The photographer saw this and tried to run. He didn't get far before I grabbed his shirt and yanked him back. Not the face. Ah. I kicked him in the chest. He cried out in pain and handed over the camera. Tiffany had forgotten that I was no longer the helpless rabbit she could bully. All those years working at a late-night barbecue stand, I had to learn how to defend myself. Did Tiffany send you? The man nodded and confessed everything. She told us to get some pictures to publish in the papers tomorrow. I haven't even taken any yet. Ow, don't hit me, don't hit me. I raised my hand, and the man cowered, begging for mercy. Please let us go. We were just doing a job. In that case, you can do a job for me. After I gave them their instructions, the two men left. I was about to go back into my room when Mrs. Collins appeared. Clara, I'd like to talk to you. This was the first time Mrs. Collins and I had ever had a heart-to-heart. The Collins family was much kinder than I had expected. Even though they were unhappy about me tricking Caleb, they were always sweet to Beanie. Did you and Tiffany have a falling out? I nodded. She studied my face and sighed. Is it something that can't be resolved? To be honest, Tiffany's mother and I used to be good friends. I even considered the idea of an arranged marriage. But Caleb was always against it. Yes, it's irreparable. I will do whatever it takes to send Tiffany to hell. Mrs. Collins shuddered, her eyes wide with surprise. Caleb always said you were a kind person. That's because you don't know what happened to me. So I told her my story. By the time I got to the part about dropping out of school, tears were streaming down her face. How could that be? I never would have thought. Linda was a child I watched grow up. How could she do that to you? And Tiffany. Because you're a kind person, you see the good in everyone. But some people are rotten to the core, hiding their decay behind a beautiful facade. I'm sorry. There hasn't been a day that I haven't hated them. That's why I have to make them pay. I didn't have to tell Mrs. Collins any of this. I had always seen my revenge as my own battle. But perhaps our time together had made me realize she was a good person. And Caleb's words had moved me. Maybe I could try to accept them. So that's why Mrs. Collins murmured, looking down. That's why Caleb was so against the arranged marriage. He even made up that story about losing his memory after being taken advantage of. You knew he was faking it? How could a mother not know if her own child has amnesia? It wasn't amnesia, it was misery. Mrs. Collins sighed, twisting the ring on her finger, a sad, helpless smile on her face. Caleb was a stranger to me during that time. He wasn't like my son at all. He's always been independent, but he rarely went against the family. But when it came to the arranged marriage, he would just lose it. Later, when he took over the company, he was determined to steal the Langford family's projects. No matter how much his father and I tried to reason with him, he wouldn't back down. One day, I asked him, "What do you have against the Langford family?" And he said, "Because the person I love was bullied." My heart skipped a beat. Mrs. Collins looked up at me, her eyes shining. "I knew a long time ago that he was in love with someone. Then you appeared, and the way he looked at you. I knew it was you." We were hesitant to accept what happened overseas, but Caleb sat us down and talked to us for a long time, just so we would be understanding and kind to you. He said he didn't want anyone in this family to bully you, not even with a cold look. I had suspected that Mrs. Collins's kindness toward me was largely due to Caleb's influence. I just hadn't realized how much he had done for me behind the scenes. "Clara, you've been through so much. I take back what I said earlier. I shouldn't have asked you to make peace with Tiffany. Do what you have to do. We will always be here for you." Their words were a huge encouragement. The next morning, the news was all over the internet. Tiffany had tried to ruin my reputation, and I had returned the favor. The story of the Langford family's illegitimate son broke. Netizens were gossiping about who would inherit the fortune. Soon, someone dug up the Langford family's financial reports and revealed that they had already set up a trust. Rich families often have trust funds to protect their assets in case of bankruptcy. But the Langfords had already broken the one rule: never use trust money for company investments. They had been forced to dip into the trust several times after losing business to Caleb. I exposed the Langford family's debt problems. Now, even Tiffany's trust fund couldn't save her. The relentless media coverage sent the Langford family into a panic. Tiffany's parents even came to the Collins estate to beg for help, but Caleb turned them away. I stood at the gate, watching the couple kneeling in the rain, and shook my head. "Why is it just the two of you? You're missing someone." Tiffany's father suddenly realized what I meant and grabbed his wife's hand. "Did Tiffany do something to offend Ms. Shen? It was just some childish games. You've got to be kidding me. Go get her, now." Tiffany's father stood up, ready to drag his daughter over, but his wife clung to his leg. "Don't. Your daughter is proud. Can you bear to see her kneel in humiliation? Why should I be the one kneeling in humiliation? It's all her fault." He shoved her away, and soon, Tiffany was brought to the estate. She got out of the car, confused, but before she could ask what was going on, her father grabbed her by the hair and dragged her in front of me. "Quick, apologize to Ms. Shen." "Why? I didn't do anything wrong." A loud slap echoed through the air. A set of fingerprints bloomed on Tiffany's pale cheek. She spat out a mouthful of blood and stared at her father in disbelief. "Dad, how could you hit me? Now that you have a son, you don't love me anymore? Cut the crap. I could kill you right now. If it weren't for you, would our family be in this mess? What did you do all those years ago?" Tiffany stood there, refusing to speak. Her father slapped her again. "Apologize. Apologize to Ms. Shen, now." The second slap sent Tiffany stumbling. She collapsed in the mud, her hair a mess, only her resentful eyes visible. "Clara, you're the one who ruined my family. If I'm going down, you're coming with me." She grabbed a nearby gardening trowel and lunged at me. I sneered and kicked her away. "Hold her down." Caleb appeared behind me. At his command, the butler and other staff members pinned Tiffany to the ground. Her face was pressed into the mud, but she continued to shout defiantly. "I won't let you get away with this. I did nothing wrong. Nothing." She screamed, while her parents knelt beside her, bowing and apologizing. Tiffany saw her chance and suddenly broke free, running toward the street. "You'll never get an apology from me." Just then, a car came speeding toward her. The impact sent Tiffany flying through the air before she landed hard on the pavement. Everyone froze. I watched as she lay in a pool of her own blood, then waved for someone to call an ambulance. I didn't need her apology. The only thing I would accept was for her to face the legal consequences of her actions. I had the evidence ready. She would spend the rest of her life in prison. There was no turning back now. Tiffany's parents sat in the rain, their faces etched with despair. Tiffany's leg was broken. When she woke up, the first thing she did was ask her parents to get her a lawyer. Her father slapped her hard across the face. "What lawyer? The family is bankrupt." "Impossible. How could it happen so fast?" "It's all your fault." The man, who had once doted on his daughter, now unleashed his fury on her, kicking and punching her while Tiffany's mother sobbed, covering her face. I stood outside the hospital room, watching it all unfold. Did she ever think, all those times she gave my father our address, that she would end up like this? But I felt nothing. No joy, no sadness. Just a numb emptiness. Once she was in prison, it would all be over. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life living in the shadows. As I walked out of the hospital, I looked up at the sky. The rain had finally stopped, and the sun was shining for the first time in a long time. "Mommy." I heard a familiar voice and looked up. In the distance, Beanie was holding Caleb's hand, her other little hand waving frantically. Father and daughter stood under a tree, Caleb holding a bouquet of flowers. I walked toward them, the wind blowing through my hair, carrying the faint scent of flowers. I pulled them into a tight hug. My new life was just beginning.